Why would a famous architect, inventor, systems theorist want his gravestone to say, "Call me Trimtab"? This is true. Our Buckminster Fuller, one of the great minds of the 20th century, had 4 words engraved on his tombstone. Not his name, not his achievements, just "Call me Trimtab." So what is this strange word? Let's get into it. The largest ships in the world are not steered by their rudder. They are steered by something most people have never heard of. What a trimtab actually is. A trimtab is a small secondary flap attached to the trailing edge of a much larger rudder on a ship or an aircraft. Here's the physics of why it matters. A large ship's rudder is enormous. The water pressure against it is so powerful that trying to turn it directly would require a massive, almost impossible amount of force. So instead of forcing the big rudder to turn, you first move the tiny trim tab. It creates a small change in the water flow. That small change reduces the pressure against the large rudder, and suddenly that massive rudder, which seemed immovable, begins to turn with relative ease. The whole ship then follows. So it's a tiny movement with a cascading effect. A completely new direction for something enormous. Buckminster Fuller, the visionary architect and systems strategist thinker, was the person who made this concept famous beyond engineering. He loved it so much that he had the words "Call me Trimtab" engraved on his tombstone. He saw it as a philosophy for how individual human beings could change the world, not by attacking the massive forces of society head on, but by making precise, small, well-placed shifts that create new conditions for large things to move. And here's why I think this is the perfect analogy for inner transformation. Most people think transformation requires dramatic overhaul, a complete reinvention, a total breakdown before the breakthrough. We are waiting for that moment big enough to justify change. But that is not how transformation actually works. Not in ships and not in people. Here is the real pattern. The ship is our outer reality, our relationships, results, circumstances, the life we experience every day. It feels enormous and resistant and hard to steer. The rudder is our behavior, our habits, our choices. People try to force change this directly and burn out because the pressure against it is too great. The trim tab is something much smaller and more upstream. Brings me genuine hope. It is a thought we choose to think differently. It is a story we stop telling about ourselves. It is a tiny moment of awareness that shifts what we believe is possible. It is a small act of courage we repeat until it becomes identity. That's the trim tab. A small inner shift that changes the conditions around the large rudder of our behavior, which then turns the whole ship of our reality. This is why the series is not just a children's story about fish. It is a series about trim tabs. Each episode is a trim tab. Each story shows a small character making a small, precise, courageous move, and watching their whole world begin to turn. In an interview, Buckminster Fuller said, "So I'm positive that what you do with yourself, just the little things you do yourself, these are the things that count. To be a real trim tab, you've got to start with yourself." Let's think about that for a moment. If a tiny sliver of metal can alter the course of a great ship, surely you and I, as little individuals, can change the course of humanity. Thank you for the gift of your time.